With major crime reports up 41%, Chicago's mayor says her crime plan is working. Yeah, it's not working, is it? It's not working because you look at the number of shootings going on in Portland. It's coming down a little bit, but crime levels in Chicago have been elevated since 2009 wildly. With major crime reports up 41% last year and Chicago police staffing down 12% since she became mayor, Lori Lightfoot says she has a public safety plan that's working. We're seeing steady improvements in public safety efforts, Lightfoot tweeted on January 3rd. What exactly are those public improvements? Yeah, what are we talking about? Because she's got a public plan, but is it working? Man, I don't know. It doesn't appear to be, does it? No. I mean, crime is up 41% since she took office prior to 2019. 41%. And yet she's got the balls to come right out and say, yeah, things are good. They're fine. Yeah, they're all good. So we're seeing steady improvements in public safety efforts, Lightfoot tweeted on January 3rd. Much more to do, but we're on the right path, she said in another tweet on January 5th. When it comes to addressing crime in our city, I've got a plan, and it's working, Lightfoot said in a tweet Tuesday morning that included her latest campaign ad. In the spot, an unidentified man blames haters for the city's crime perception problem. So she's got this ad. It's I need to find that ad. We're running a little bit behind here, so I don't exactly have all of my clips lined up perfectly. But there's an ad, and it's basically a PR thing. And you've got some random people saying, she's really doing a good job, and haters gonna hate. It's like, no, the citizens of Chicago are not enjoying their, massive shootings and robberies and just general mayhem going on. They're the folks that are being impacted by all this. And then you've got a PR firm that's putting together this little ad, and it's wild, right? It's wild. In the spot, an unidentified man blames haters for the city's crime perception problem. The mayor says the man has got a plan. The man has got a plan. She's putting more police on the streets and getting more guns off of them. So that is just simply not true, is it? It's just simply not true. Number of police officers in Chicago has decreased considerably. I think it was like 1,600 officers. Yeah, gone from 13,302 down to 11,731. So whatever that is, 7. Yeah, my math, not a math major here, but down significant numbers of police officers, not adding more to the streets. And even if you were, would it be enough to quell the violence that's going on here in Chicago? You've got let's just take a quick peek. Let's just see what we've got going on Hey Jackass. That's always a good one. I enjoy taking a look at Hey Jackass because they do kind of real live time stats of Chicago. So every 2 minutes, 26 seconds, you've got a person is shot in Chicago right now. Every 11 minutes, 56 seconds, a person is murdered in Chicago. 2.5 minutes, shooting happens. 12 minutes, somebody dies. Somebody's murdered. So, I mean, if by those statistics, your plan is working, all right. I mean, I'll bite. How is this working? When it comes to addressing crime in our city, I got a plan and it's working. Yeah, no plan whatsoever. In fact, 21 of Chicago's 22 police districts have lost cops under Lightfoot's administration. Reports of major crimes were up in all 22 districts last year compared to 2019 when she took office. Overall, Chicago Police Department's force strength has plummeted from 13,302 officers when Lightfoot took office to 11,731 this month, according to the Office of the Inspector General. I'll show you guys what I'm reading here. In fairness, when the guy on the TV ad said Lightfoot is putting more police on the streets, He may have been referring to the number of cops who protect the street where Lightfoot lives. We've talked about this as well. While other units atrophied under her watch, the Detached Services Unit, which provides mayoral security, ballooned 177% from 56 officers to 155. So you've got this situation where you got a mayor saying, hey, got a plan? We're working on it. And then the stark reality is something wildly different. Meanwhile, her security, she is definitely beefed up because, I mean, we all know Chicago just isn't safe, right? It's just simply not safe. Otherwise, in districts from one end of the city to the other tell the same tale. Under the Lightfoot administration, the number of cops is down and the amount of crime is up. So it's just wild when you have these politicians who come right out and say one thing and you're reading it and you're going, and if you followed any of my stuff at all, I've covered Chicago quite a bit because Chicago is kind of the poster child for not being a safe city. It's crazy, right? You've got so many statistics and so much criminal activity coming out of Chicago, and everybody pretty much just wants to, ignore the fact that this is the situation. And, we've got a plan. We've got a plan. We've got an ad campaign it's really going to put out what we've got going on here, which to me is just, it's not good, right? All right. So throughout 2022, Chicago Police Department and the mayor's office played up talking points about hundreds of prospective new officers being trained at the city's police academy. Yet despite the hype and training efforts, the police department failed to keep up with attrition and experienced a net loss of 169 officers last year. That is happening all across the United States. That's just going on everywhere, right? Citywide, major crime reports are up 33% compared to 2019. On New Year's Day, the department issued a press release boasting that 2022's crime rates were down compared to years dating back to 1965. All right. See, what you've had is in the last few years, you've had a massive spike. Like after 2018, you had a massive spike in crime in Chicago. You had a spike in crime across the United States. It's almost kind of like, everybody on the criminal end of things was just flat given the green light, right? They were just like, hey, it's go time, guys. Jump on in, do your thing. And I've read that on, so many different articles. We're not really sure what's going on. There's a social phenomenon going on here, and we don't really know what the deal is, but it's happening and we're not sure why. What was interesting is that during the pandemic, it almost did seem like there was a switch that was flipped, right? Just click and things just took off. Because I remember reading stories here about downtown Seattle and downtown Portland and kind of going, whoa, all right, so we got this pandemic where we're shutting things down. And yet all these other news stories are basically indicating, all right, we shut things down and crime just took off. Crime just went through the roof. Statistically, that's what's happened. In Chicago, yes, it's come down the last couple of years, but that's because it elevated so high. And it's up 41% over where Lightfoot was when she took over. So way more crime. And yet she's complaining, or she's claiming, we've got a plan. We're getting stuff done. Just stuff is happening. On January 17th of last year, 51-year-old California resident Sergio Ontiveros was battered outside a Wrigleyville bar. He fell during the attack, hit his head on the pavement, and died 8 days later. The Cook County Medical Examiner's Office declared his death a homicide due to craniocerebral injuries suffered in an assault. The Chicago Police Department continues to classify the case as an aggravated battery, not a murder. It's impossible to know if other murder cases carry lesser classification of Chicago Police Department records. So, bottom line is here, are the books being cooked? Could be. It could be. I mean, would it surprise you? There's so many murders happening. There's so many, examples of criminal activity happening. You take 20% of those and scooch them over to aggravated battery. That's not a murder. Somebody's life is ended. They're dead. I mean, that's not where we want to be. And yet these politicians just, they claim this other thing. And you're like, are you really going to sell me that? Is this really what you've got for me? Because this doesn't really work. And yet the people that voted her in will stick behind her. They will stick behind her and say, she's doing a good job, doing some solid work. The rest of us are kind of sitting in from the outside going, oh, yeah, I don't think so. I'll just read this last spot here. On Tuesday morning, about the time Lightfoot's new campaign ad debuted, the Chicago Police Department released its latest weekly crime statistics report. Through Sunday, overall major crime reports are up 72% compared to the same time last year. It certainly seems like Chicago is off to the races and doing its thing. As far as criminal activity goes, and it doesn't seem like the levels have decreased, but it's because things have elevated so high that when you come down just a little bit, all right, crime is coming down. But it's like, oh no, it's what I equate it to as real estate terms. Market goes up forever, right? It goes up, goes crazy, goes up, 100% over 3-4 years. If it comes down just a little bit, yes, it's come down, but how much has it risen? And that's what I'm getting at here is it rose for Chicago 41%. And yet the mayor is saying, well, we've got a plan and we're acting it out and haters going to hate. And yeah, now, how many of those folks in Chicago are believing her? I don't know. Who voted her in? I don't know. Are they going to stay behind her? Because I think she's running again, right? I think she's running again. All right. That is it for this storyline. And I'm thinking I should have read the other one first, but we had this is the gallery owner in San Francisco. This is a wild one coming up here. So stick with me here. I'm going to read some of the comments, see what you guys are. Buy the ticket, take the ride. Don't expect that little shrew in the mayor's office to help. Precious. Yeah. A lot of people not fans of Mayor Lori Lightfoot, right? So if her plan is to turn Chicago into a hellhole, then it's working perfectly. That's what most folks are saying, right? It's like, all right. And you get what you pay for. You voted this lady in. You voted, I can't imagine putting my vote behind her. But, there's other people out there too. Same thing. I'm like, really? How are we doing that? Soros spent millions getting prosecuting attorneys into office who won't prosecute. His agenda is to demoralize people so that they can grab power. 100% agreed. 100% agreed. I was watching The Newsroom, been watching that on HBO. And they had a comment about Soros, which is interesting because it's put out by Aaron Sorkin, I think it is. He was the producer. He's pretty liberal from what I understand, but he had pretty dialed in. They were trying to talk there. The show is about objective news, and it's a really interesting show. Unfortunately, my girlfriend and I started on season 3, not realizing it was season 3. And then we went back to season 1. We're like, well, we haven't seen any of this. So we kind of came in midstream, but it's wild how different entities just clearly identify the same thing here. Soros has spent millions. Did a podcast here not too long ago talking about yet another deal he is funding, which doesn't help out our court system, doesn't help out, keeping criminals off the street. And yet, liberals want to see that. They want to see, we're being fair to people. We're being compassionate to people. All right. What else we got here? The plan is working. Law-abiding folks are being attacked. Yeah, they are. They are. I mean, it's just what's happening. And what so many of you guys often comment is, then leave. And I think what you are seeing is in these crazy cities, in these like Seattle, where I am, but I'm here in Bellevue. I think you are seeing an exodus from these cities. But what it's doing is it's kind of centralizing positions of power, and it's divided upon, the two lines. Are you conservative? Do you follow anywhere, right of center, or do you follow left of center? And that's where people are going. And I happen to live here in Seattle. I happen to have grown up here. And now I'm kind of realizing that a lot of what I saw growing up is exactly what we're talking about here with the whole Soros deal and with the whole kind of we're changing things up. You know, Seattle's become a very liberal city. It's always been liberal, but, you know, back prior to when I was a kid, it was kind of a man's tough town as far as the logging industry, shipping industry, and the term Skid Row literally comes from downtown Seattle because you'd bring the logs from the Cascade Mountain foothills, all the logging territories, and you'd bring them to the hills because downtown Seattle is super steep, and you'd skid them down to the waterfront where they'd go out for processing. So, you know, Seattle has always been kind of rough, but then we've gone through, and a lot of other towns have too. Portland, San Francisco. San Francisco's always been that way though, right? It's always been a little, you guys are just a little too progressive going on there. But you know, Seattle and Portland have really progressed to the point where even my children are kind of identifying that. And they're like soon to be 30 and late 20s. They're like, Dad, this whole Seattle thing isn't really, this isn't really what I signed up for. I don't really identify with these people that much because they're both born and raised in Bellevue, went to Bellevue High School, also known as Hot Tub High. Because back in the day, everybody had a hot tub when, you know, hot tubs were something only the rich had. So, you know, they grew up in that type of environment with, you know, multi-millionaires and billionaires at their school, that kind of deal. Far cry from Seattle, but now they both happen to live over in Seattle. And they're like, Dad, yeah, what are we doing here? All right, let's see what else you guys have. What's her plan to stop crime? To show her saggy in downtown Chicago. I don't know if showing her saggy, you know, what's is really going to do much, but I hear what you're saying. Just her showing up to me is like scary. You know, the whole Beetlejuice thing, like, ooh, yeah, wild.